And welcome in to another edition of the Football Friday Show. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. Another late night at the 97.3 ESPN studio. It's one of those nights where you're watching the Philadelphia 76ers and you walk away questioning how on earth this team was 4-0, and then they ended the game the way they did tonight. It was just so weird. We'll get into more of that tomorrow on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN, 12 to 3 p.m. As I mentioned, I'm in the 97.3 studio. Had some stuff to take care of before I jumped on here on the stream. Again, as always, like, subscribe, share with your friends. I always appreciate all the support from all of you. I do see the comment in here. Jeff from Ocean City asking about Penn State. Jeff, we'll get to yours because the Penn State-Ohio State game is on the list of games that we are going to get into this week on the show. Just a couple of quick thoughts, really quick. Number one, final day of October. And I just wanted to say that it's very interesting to me that the football season is going the way it has, because I think that now more than ever, excuse me, there was a little speck there on the camera lens. Now more than ever, you're seeing in college football that the parity is absolutely bonkers. I don't remember there ever being a time where the parity was this intense in college football. We're used to the parity in the NFL. We're used to, the New York Giants coming out of nowhere to beat the Eagles or, do what they are doing right now. But you're not used to seeing it in college football. You're not used to seeing, let me just name off some of the teams here I got written down. I mean, North Texas, Mississippi State, NC State. These are not teams you usually get into conversations about. But Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt hasn't been a top 10 ranked team since 1947. Like, that's the world we live in now. And this is why, for all the people who gripe and complain about name, image, and likeness and how much money the kids are getting paid, the reality is that you wouldn't have this parity if it wasn't for name, image, and likeness. Because what name, image, and likeness has done is it has created an environment where you don't have to go to Alabama, Texas to get the best gigs, to get the best opportunities. You can go anywhere. There used to be a time, I'm old enough to remember, where you went to Miami or Notre Dame because you wanted to be on TV, right? Now, everyone's on TV. You went to a school like Oklahoma or Texas because you knew they were pipelines to the NFL. NFL gets everybody now. Doesn't matter where you come from. So college football now, name, image, and likeness has amplified that. And the best news we've gotten is college football is going to be eliminating all the extra transfer opportunities. So after this season, you're not going to see as much transferring happening anymore. It's going to be cut down majorly because they're changing that rule. So I do think that, this is probably going to be the last year of like hyper parity, because once they start shrinking down how many guys can transfer versus not transfer, and also we're running out of what we call the COVID guys, the guys who were sophomores and freshmen in 2020 who got the extra year of eligibility. We are now at the back end of that run. So keep that in mind moving forward, that what we are seeing this year is not going to be like this every year moving forward, because they're changing the transfer portal rules. We're going to get rid of the last couple classes of the COVID kids, the kids who all came into college in 2020 or made their first transfer in 2020. And you are also going to see in the near future, they're going to start changing the NIL rules. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but so that's why, don't get hung up on, oh man, for example, Jeff at Ocean City, Penn State, what are they going to do? And that's why I was having this argument on 97.3 ESPN FM with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash about how I don't view Florida as a great job anymore. LSU, yes. Florida, not so much. Because in today's world, if you live in, whoa, sorry about that. If you live, I smacked my own laptop. I'm so excited. I'm animated. If you live in Florida, you don't have to go to Florida, Florida State, University of Miami. You can go to South Florida. You can go to Florida International. You can go to Florida Atlantic. You can leave the state altogether. You can go to Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Mississippi, Mississippi State, UAB, Alabama, Auburn, Arkansas State, Alabama State, Southern Mississippi. Get the picture here, folks. You don't have to do the thing. And that's the problem. There's a lot of people who look at college football right now, and I'm noticing this with a lot of the analysis out there. And I thought that David Pollack brought up a great point on his See-Ball, Get Ball podcast, where he said the way things worked 20 to 30 years ago are going away. So we got to stop treating these kids the way we treated college football 25, 30 years ago. And of course, also some of these kids are just pampered little brats and, they got all the talent in the world and they can't actually play. All right. Enough babbling by me. Let's get to the picks. So, for those of you who are new, thank you for tuning in to the Football Friday show here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Also live on X. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit the subscribe on the profile. I appreciate all of you who tune in each and every week. I run into many of you out and about here in South Jersey talking to me about these picks. The way we've been doing this since 2018, when sports betting became legal in 2018. We give the games, we analyze the numbers. We understand that I am not telling you what will happen. I am not making any prognostications. I am giving you a educated analysis based on what I see on the field, what I see in the analytics, and based on the fact that the sports books, their prime objective is to take your money. So where do we see flaws in their system? Where does the math not add up? That's what we do here on the Football Friday show. Again, all of the numbers we give you are presented by Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app offering you Caesars rewards. For more information, go to CaesarsSportsbook.com/promos for more information. If you or somebody knows a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We are also brought to you by Tropicana Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit, the ultimate watch and wager experience right near the cashier's cage behind Chickies and Pete's in Tropicana Atlantic City. We'll be back there on November 22nd. Is the next time I'll be back at Tropicana in Atlantic City. Also, I would like to let everybody know that Hanging with Hennig tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. We will be all over the place. We'll be football, we'll be basketball. I got Tony Jones, the Athletic Sixers beat writer, joining me at 12:30. I got Andy McNamara for the weekly fantasy football insight and analysis at 1:25. 2:25, South Jersey undefeated heavyweight Bruce Seldon Jr. He'll be fighting on Friday, November 7th. Boxing Insider Promotions, of course, a sponsor of us here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig and on 97.3 ESPN. They just announced Josh Popper, the Holy Spirit High School graduate. He will be on the fight card officially next Friday, November 7th. I will be late again on the stream because I will be at the fights next Friday. So we'll be doing the Football Friday show after Boxing Insider Promotions. If you're in South Jersey, get your tickets down at Ticketmasters.com. It's going to be a jam-packed fight card. We're hoping to have Josh Popper join us tomorrow as well on the show. All right. We got all the particulars out of the way. Let's get to what we need to know. Football Friday picks. Last week we went 8-4, 2 straight weeks going 8-4 on the college football picks. We are now overall in the year over 64 percentile. We are now back in line with what we were averaging last year in terms of percentages. So let's get into what these picks are. I am going to start with a game that I think a lot of people are not looking at. And it's a game that I actually think is the most fascinating. And if I can get on the TV tomorrow here in the 97.3 studio, I'm going to do it. I am absolutely intrigued and fascinated by this game between Navy and North Texas. The winner of this game will not just be in the driver's seat for the American Athletic Conference title, but there will also be the opportunity to control their destiny for the college football playoff. Navy, they are 7-0. They have won by an average of 14 points per game in all of their wins. And their only two close games were against a high-powered Air Force offense and a Temple team that somehow was averaging 33.6 points a game. So Navy is having an amazing season. The boys down in Annapolis, incredible year they're having. But this is the biggest test they have to date. All right. North Texas, who is 7-1. North Texas is favored in this game. One, because it's in North Texas. Okay, the Mean Green Machine, it's in their house. The other reason why they're favored is because I think there are still doubters out there about Navy. I think there's still people out there who are questioning, is Navy as good as we think they are? Which is kind of ironic because North Texas is the one with the loss on the year. They lost to South Florida this year. And so, now in South Florida, they've been making life miserable for everybody. There's one weakness in North Texas this year. And that big weakness is their run defense. Their run defense is allowing 190.8 rushing yards against. It is actually one of the worst run defenses in all of college football. You take the 130-some teams in all of FBS, they have one of the worst run defenses in all of college football. The strength of Navy is their run game. 318 rushing yards per game. That's what Navy does. So the weakness of North Texas is the strength of Navy. And I'm telling you guys right now, if Navy wins this game, they do not just have a shot to win the conference. They could be in the college football playoff. And think about that. For years, we have looked at the Naval Academy, the Army, the Air Forces, and it's been more of like a nostalgia thing, right? You know, these are programs that haven't been national powerhouses in decades, right? You know, the last time these schools had major programs competing for potentially national titles was when Roger Staubach won the Heisman back in the 60s. Like that's what we're talking about here. So if Navy can win this game, they would be 8-0. And they would have control of their entire destiny ahead of them. And just to give a quick analogy before I give you the pick for the game, I want to show you the Navy football schedule for the rest of the year, because this is a very important part of this conversation. We're talking about the idea of Navy contending for the college football playoff. That's what we're talking about here. So if that's what we're talking about, I want to show you guys straight up the rest of this schedule, because I'm telling you guys right now, if they win against North Texas tomorrow, Navy could be in the college football playoff conversation. Here's the schedule. After North Texas, you go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been beaten up on a lot of bad teams, but Notre Dame themselves, they're not that good. Notre Dame's a very good team. They're not a great team. And Notre Dame, they better watch out, because they could trip this weekend against Boston College. I know Boston College is not a very good team, but it's at BC, and there's a bit of a historical rivalry there. Bill O'Brien, he's a very smart coach, so be careful there. But once you get past Notre Dame, this is the gauntlet here. This month is the make or break month for Navy. So at North Texas, at Notre Dame. You come home to South Florida. You should probably win that game, by the way. At Memphis, probably should win that game. Then the famous Army-Navy game. Now, keep in mind, this is the gauntlet of a schedule. But beating a team like North Texas, who is 7-1, is a perfect way to get through that gauntlet. And that's why I am going in this game Navy plus 6.5. North Texas has a bad run defense. Navy has a great run offense. I don't know if it's going to be the highest scoring game in the world, so that's why I'm not touching the over-under, even though my projected score when I ran my numbers was 35-31. But for me, I think Navy could outright win this game potentially. I think that 6.5 feels a little too large, and I don't think people realize how bad North Texas's run defense has been this year. Again, they're one of the worst of college football. And it's strength on weakness in this game. That's why I like Navy plus 6.5. Sticking with the military academies, an important game in the race for the Commander-in-Chief trophy is tomorrow. Army versus Air Force. Now, in this game, I am playing the over-under, and here's why. These military academies always play these games tough, right? The history and the rivalry and the pageantry runs deep. But the one thing I can tell you about these two teams, they don't play good defense. They can score, but not good defense. You are talking about an Air Force team that has allowed 30 points or more in 5 of their 7 games this year. An Army team that is allowing over 31 points per game against in their 4 losses. So think about that. You have one team that typically gives up 30 points a game. Another team that every time they lose, which by the way, they're only 2-5 this year, is Army. They're allowing 31 points a game. Now, the difference in this game is going to be which version of Army's defense shows up, because Army in their wins is allowing 13.6 points a game. So when they win games, their defense is great. When they lose games, their defense is garbage, right? So which version of the Alabama defense shows up? Sorry, the Army defense shows up. What I do know for sure is that Air Force has scored 30 or points or more in 6 other 7 games this year. That's why my projected score for this game is 31-30. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think this game is going to blow past the 49.5 total for this game. I think Army and Navy is going to come down to whoever has the ball last. They're going to control the clock. They're going to get a score, and they're going to play keep away from the other team. I think that Army and Air Force is going to be a high-scoring affair, and that's why 49.5, because whoever wins this game has a chance at the Commander-in-Chief trophy. I mentioned earlier, Navy beat Air Force already. Army has to win this game. And even though it's at Air Force, even they got to go to altitude, to Colorado, I don't think Army is scared. I think Army's had a rough year, but I think they still have some resilient players on that team. I think they want to win this game badly. And I think they want to go to Air Force and beat Air Force because they know if they beat Air Force, they have a chance at the Commander-in-Chief trophy. And that makes the Army-Navy game, the stakes even higher, through the roof. And you think that game's competitive every year? If Army wins this game tomorrow, it's even more competitive. So a ton on the line. I expect a lot of points in the Army-Air Force game. All right. Let's head over to the SEC. A game that surprisingly will not be high scoring. And that's going to be Vanderbilt at Texas. So here's the story of this game. For those of you who might not be following the Longhorns that closely, right? You might already know that Texas, they've struggled at times this year offensively. Their offense has been, it's been a bit skittish at times. And now they don't have Arch Manning. They lose the dynamics of their offense. They lose the high ceiling, the high potential for that offense. Arch Manning has a concussion. He cannot play. So you go from a starting quarterback with the highest ceiling of probably of any quarterback in college football to a vagabond. Matthew Caldwell. Matthew Caldwell sounds like the guy who's probably going to be balancing your taxes in a few years, right? Matthew Caldwell has started games. Here's the list. When I saw this list, I double-checked this information. I didn't realize this was real. Like, when I was doing my research for this game, I was like, who is this guy? And when I started looking up, I'm like, I got to check a new website. This can't be right. This can't be real. But it is. You see this. He has started games for Jacksonville State, Gardner-Webb, and Troy. 3 colleges that, frankly, almost nobody's either heard of, nobody knows who played there, or at least 2 of them, you don't know where the schools are located. You probably can figure out Jacksonville State is Jacksonville, right? I don't expect any of you to be dumb, but guess what? Gardner-Webb and Troy, really? And that's who's starting for Texas tomorrow. No Arch Manning. We got Matthew Caldwell, who's probably going to be balancing your books and your taxes in about 5-10 years. Or maybe he's going to be a gym teacher. I don't know. I hope the best for the guy. But tomorrow, he's going to have a rough go. Because this is the SEC. He ain't playing at Gardner-Webb and Troy and Jacksonville State anymore. Although Jacksonville State a couple years ago was upsetting people. But I digress. Texas had a good defense. But this offense is going to struggle tomorrow without Arch Manning. They're going to play conservative. They are going to be, efficient. They're going to take their time. They're not going to take big risks. Because Steve Sarkisian knows if Texas loses this game, they are completely out of the picture for the college football playoff. The numbers are all going to be stacked against them. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, Vanderbilt, top 10 ranked for the first time since 1947. How many of us were even alive in 1947? I don't think I even know many people who've been alive that long. I mean, that's a crazy long time ago. That's when Vanderbilt was last time ranked in the top 10. But here's the key for Vanderbilt. For as much as I have loved Vanderbilt the last couple of years with Diego Pavia, this is a Vanderbilt team that is averaging only 29 points per game on the road compared to 43 points per game at home. That is a huge difference, right? That is a 17-point difference, road and home. This game is in Austin, Texas. I like the Texas defense to clamp down on Vanderbilt, make life difficult for them. I think Vandy still wins the game 24-21, but that hits the under 46.5. I think it'll be a low-scoring affair in that SEC matchup. All right? Another game I think is going to be a little lower scoring than people think it is going to be in the SEC is Georgia, Florida. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. One of the biggest rivalries of all of college football, right? College football history has about 10 rivalries that are just, they're historic, right? They're 100 years plus old. Like if you were making a list of the biggest college football rivalries of all time, Michigan, Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Army, Navy, I lost track. Missouri, Kansas, right? The border war. Texas, Oklahoma. You got to throw in there, Notre Dame's weird because Notre Dame is kind of like, they've kind of shifted over the years. But I guess you would say Notre Dame USC is probably the bigger of Notre Dame's rivalries at this point in time. The backyard brawl, Pitt versus West Virginia, is a massive historical rivalry in college football. You can throw in there South Carolina, Clemson. You can throw in there Texas A&M. Like that's like 10 of the biggest rivalries. And I didn't even mention some of the others like Arizona State, or oh my goodness, Virginia Tech, right? But Florida, Georgia, this is one of the apex. This is one of the biggest college football rivalries in the world. And the problem with this game, the reason why I feel this is going to be a lower scoring affair, is because the Gators offense has struggled all year. They have only scored more than 23 points one time in their last 6 games. They are averaging 17 points a game in their last 6 games. In that stretch, they're 2-4. The Florida offense is a huge reason why Billy Napier was fired, because he was able to get one of the biggest college football high school prospects coming out of high school, DJ Lagway, to come to Florida. And he could do nothing good with him. And the offense just kept getting worse and worse. And that's why they fired him. They said, enough's enough. I mean, they wanted to fire him last year to people who were fans of Florida. But they said, no, keep them one more year. Well, they kept them one more year and it got worse. And now they're going against the Georgia defense. It's not elite. They've been scored on this year. Ole Miss scored 35 points on them. Tennessee scored 41 points on them. Florida doesn't have the firepower that Tennessee or Ole Miss have. The Rebels and Vols offenses are 10 times better than Florida. I think Georgia is going to come into this game and they want to stomp, kick, and BTA Florida all the way home. My projected score for this game is actually 28-18 is what the formula spit it out that I use. But I think this is probably closer to 30-10. Like I think that Florida's going to have a ton of trouble scoring in this game. Like they might have a drive or two that look like they're alive. But I think Georgia's going to want to stomp that out real quickly. I can see Florida scoring like a touchdown, maybe the first and quarter. And then the Georgia coach being like, like the movie, Remember the Titans, you blitz all night. You're not going to gain another yard. We are going to make them remember the night, right? This is in the afternoon, a bunch of drunk college fans, but you get the point. I think Georgia is going to smash them. And so I'm thinking the under 50.5. Under 50.5 is probably the safe play here. Okay? We'll get back to the SEC in a minute, but I promised Jeff from Ocean City that we would get to the Penn State, Ohio State game because it is on the list. I didn't put it on the list because of Jeff. It's on the list. And I hate to let you know, Jeff, this is not going to be your game for one specific reason. It is not in Happy Valley. This game is in Columbus. Yeah, that's the problem for all the Penn State fans in this game. A matchup that we all looked forward to before the year began. A matchup that I would say every college football fan looked at with anticipation when you were marking games on your calendar and you were wondering about what are going to be the biggest games of the year. This was supposed to be one of them. This was supposed to be one of those games where you looked at it and you said, man, this is going to be a big game. And now, Drew Allard is injured, quarterback. James Franklin's fired. Everything is going downhill at Penn State. Everything. And I'll get to the James Franklin part of it in a minute. But this game is at Columbus. It's at the Horseshoe. And that's why Penn State is going to lose this game. It's not going to be a close game, Jeff. And that's why I had some trouble with this game because I really wanted to pick it because I am fascinated about, does Ohio State keep piling up the style points? Does Ohio State keep leaning into the numbers, right? And so I started looking at it closer. And I realized Ohio State is 6-1 against the spread this year. There's only one game they didn't cover this year. And that was versus Ohio. Yes, the University of Ohio Bobcats. That was the game that they only won by 28. They missed it by the hook. So technically, Ohio State has been blasting people all year for the most part. And without Drew Allard, Penn State's offense is struggling. And Ohio State has one of the best defenses in all of college football. Remember, style points is going to help when the college football committee meets. They talk to each other about what are we going to do, what are we not going to do, who should be ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ohio State is chasing the style points. And that's why I'm taking Ohio State to cover. Now, I know at certain sports books it is 18.5. I know it opened at 20.5. We use Caesar Sportsbook here on the Football Friday show. I'm Josh Hennig. My YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig on X. We are sponsored by Caesar Sportsbook. We are sponsored by Tropicana Atlantic City. So I'm going by the 19.5. You find a different number, that's on you. My projected score for this game is 30-10. I think Ohio State is going to blast them. I think they're going to run away with this game. And I think that because Penn State already is 1-6 against the spread this year, I think Penn State is going to have a ton of trouble in this game. And I think it's going to be a bad day for Nittany Lion fans. And I just want to say this really quick. I know that Matt Rhule is not going to be the next head coach of Penn State because of the new extension he signed and the weird comments that he made recently. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Matt Rhule, who's the head coach of Nebraska, he said that he wants to win at Nebraska. He wants to retire in a few years, and he wants to be pumping gas at the Lincoln gas station and talking to people about the good old days. Like, Matt Rhule's got a retirement plan mapped out in Nebraska, so he wasn't leaving. But I still think there are a couple people that Penn State could land that could turn things around. Because James Franklin was a great recruiter. He was excellent at getting kids in the building. He was not great at hiring coaches. That's the other side of the equation. James Franklin was a very good CEO head coach. But as the CEO, he didn't hire the right offense coordinator, defense coordinator. He did a bad job at that. And he was not a great in-game manager. He was a great recruiter. That's why there's a part of me that thinks that James Franklin is going to end up at Florida, because I think either Florida or probably Florida, but because of the fact that he's a great recruiter, and Florida's problem is they're losing recruiting battles right now more often than not. So, but for Penn State, I know there's a rumor out there that they could go get Joe Brady because apparently the Pagula family, which owns the Buffalo Bills, they are major donors to Penn State, and there's a rumor out there that there's a setup that the Pagula family will agree to help pay off the buyout for James Franklin if they hire who they want to hire. And the rumor is they want to hire Joe Brady. But now with the LSU job open, that might not be a guarantee. But Joe Brady's still in the conversation. Some of you are going to laugh. But I think Penn State, if you're firing a guy like James Franklin, you can't go out and get just a random dude. You got to go out and get a rock star. You have to go out and get a guy who the moment he walks in the building, people stop what they're doing. And to me, if I'm Penn State, there's one man that I raise the money for. There's one man that I am going to give the kind of contract where you're basically promising him revenue sharing, right? You go to this guy and you say, you get a percentage of ticket sales. You get a percentage of the TV money. You get a percentage of everything, because we know that we need you in this building, because at the end of the day, college football is about elevating the program to make kids want to come to your program and stay in your program. And if you are going to keep competing with the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Notre Dames, the Alabamas, the Texas, these major programs, Penn State had a recruiter, but he couldn't win the big game. So now you don't want to bring in a guy who's a great coach who can't recruit. So you got to bring in a guy whose star power is so big that it negates all the other stuff. Listen to me real quick. That man is John Gruden. I think John Gruden can walk into Penn State and be the kind of megastar that they need to erase all the ill will of James Franklin, to change the dynamics of the entire program. Optically, visually, because you can't bring in a random guy. You're not rehabilitating the image like you had to with Bill O'Brien. You brought in the big recruiter, James Franklin. He couldn't win the big game. And unless Marcus Freeman is going to leave Notre Dame for Penn State, you don't have a lot of great options. Because with LSU open and Florida open and other programs like Arkansas open as well, there's going to be a lot of money to be thrown around. And Gruden's old enough to know what Penn State can be. That's the problem with some of these coaches out there. They don't know. All right, let's finish out the college football picks. By the way, I also think that my working theory is that LSU should hire Joe Brady and they should bring Ed Orgeron back to help recruit. That's my working theory. And I think Brian Kelly should go to Oklahoma State because Brian Kelly can recruit. And Oklahoma State's problem is a talent problem. All right, let's get enough of the coaching carousel. All right, we got that. We got 4 more games to hit on. Let's go. Mississippi State, Arkansas. I mentioned Arkansas before. They fired Sam Pittman earlier this year. They have an interim coach. Listen, these are 2 teams. They are 0-4 in the SEC. Someone's got to win the game, right? And it's going to be because of their offenses. Arkansas is averaging 35 points a game, led by Taylor Green at quarterback. And Mississippi State is averaging 32.5 points a game, led by a quarterback, Blake Shapen. This is the game where points will be aplenty, defense will be optional. Give me the over 55.5. My projected score for this game is 30-21. Sorry, no, that's wrong. 32. I looked at the game there. No, 32-31. I think this is going to be a run it and gun it game. Whoever has the ball last is going to win the game, whether that be Green or Shapen. Personally, I think Arkansas wins this game at home 32-31. Wouldn't be surprised if it went to overtime. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 30-30 tie game and we're going to overtime. And then we go like 4 overtimes and then it just gets nuts. So over 55.5 for Ole Miss, Arkansas. Also in the SEC, another over I got for you guys, Oklahoma at Tennessee. You saw Oklahoma's offense finally wake up last week. You finally saw the Oklahoma offense look a little like they did before Mateer injured his hand. The only reason why the Tennessee is 6-2 is because they had the best offense in college football. 45.5 points a game. Joey Aguilar's 18 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. John Mateer, I think, finally found something last week. And the Sooners defense has looked good at times, but not great against SEC opponents. Here's the numbers. They are averaging 22 points a game against in the SEC. Outside the SEC, they're averaging 10 points per game against. That's a huge difference. And by the way, Ole Miss just scored 34 against them last Saturday. And Tennessee's offense is just as good, if not more potent, than the Ole Miss Rebels. This game is in Knoxville. This is a place where they average more than a touchdown per game scored at home versus the road for Tennessee. This is going to be a bonkers scoring game. It's going to be electric. It's Aguilar. It's Mateer. It's Josh Heupel. It's Brent Venables. It's the star power for star power game. This is arguably the biggest college football game of the weekend. And I'm taking the over 55.5. But I'm also sprinkling a little on the Tennessee 2.5 because I got Tennessee winning 31-28. That covers with 3, covers 2.5. I think Tennessee wins the game. It keeps them in the running for the college football playoff. It keeps them outside looking in for the SEC championship. And I think at the end of the day, Tennessee will pull away and win this game. Oklahoma's defense does not have the tools to stop Tennessee. And Tennessee's defense, it might as well be me playing safety. Because you know what? Those players who play defense for Tennessee, they don't have it. So, another high-scoring game in the SEC. One more SEC game to get to, but this one we're going to go under. South Carolina, Ole Miss. Now, the little rub about this game is that these are two of the best passing defenses in the SEC. South Carolina is the 5th best passing defense in the Southeastern Conference. Guess who's number 6? That's right, folks, Ole Miss. There's 16 teams in the Southeastern Conference, and these are two of the best pass defenses in the whole conference. I think these defensive units will do enough to slow down South Carolina quarterback Lenore Sellers and Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Two quarterbacks who they've been a little underwhelming the last few weeks. Lenore Sellers, very disappointing year. I have been so disappointed in him this year. He has been way less than I ever expected him to be. And I've said it before here on the Football Friday show. I've said it here on my YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig on X. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Thanks to all of you who are watching on all the platforms tonight. I have said this numerous times. I think Lenore Sellers is injured. I think he's fighting through injury because he's a competitor. He's a tough kid, but I think he's hurting his team. Meanwhile, Chambliss, I still think Trinidad Chambliss is a good player. But I think we're starting to see that transition from D2 to D1 is kind of messing with him a little bit, right? It's kind of like he's starting to see some stuff he's never seen before. And I think Lane Kiffin actually is happy that Chambliss is struggling a little bit. And I think Kiffin likes it because Kiffin gets to do now with Trinidad Chambliss what he couldn't do the last 2 years with Jackson Dart, which is lean into his bread and butter of coaching. Lane, at his heart of hearts, loves coaching. Lane is an old, psycho offensive play calling coach. And the problem with Dart was that Dart was what he was. He wasn't going to develop anymore at Ole Miss. Chambliss is still he's still raw. He's still moldable. He's still pliable. He's still developmentally up here. So I think Lane Kiffin looks at Chambliss and says, I can still work with this guy. I can still make something of this guy. And I think these two defenses are going to slow these quarterbacks down. My projected score for this game is Ole Miss to win 29-21, which is under the 55.5. Final game I'm looking forward to this weekend. It involves the player who would be the Heisman Trophy frontrunner if his stats were a little different. I think in today's world of college football, we hold against players like Haynes King what we would not have done years ago. When a guy like Eric Crouch was at Nebraska and Tim Tebow was at Florida, and you go back in the back in the time machine, you go back in the time machine to some of the quarterbacks, decades ago. Haynes King would have been a god in that era. But because he only had 7 passing touchdowns versus 12 rushing, people kind of look at him like, oh, well, he's a really good player. He's winning games, but he doesn't have a lot of passing touchdowns. But this kid's a stud. And he is leading an undefeated Georgia Tech team right now on a stretch where they are one of the best offenses in all of college football. They're efficient. They're potent. They're borderline unstoppable unless they stop themselves with turnovers or bad decisions on third down. And now they're going to go on the road to a North Carolina State team that is 105th in college football in points per game against. That's right. Out of 136 teams, NC State is 105. they are allowing almost 30 points a game. And they have allowed opponents to score 30 or more points in 4 of the last 7 games. I got Georgia Tech winning this game 33-25, and I have the Yellow Jackets covering the 5.5, and hopefully Haynes King doesn't turn into the Rodney Dangerfield of college football. Hopefully he starts getting a little more respect. All right? Let's get to the NFL. Like Jeff in Ocean City, if you want to comment, you can leave it on the YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Jeff asked earlier about the Penn State-Ohio State game. All right, NFL, we went 6-3 last week overall. We are now up to 59%. We had that rough week earlier in the month, but now we're bouncing back with some winning weeks. So let's get you some more wins on the schedule. Here are the games I am focusing on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 games. So 6 games in week 9 of the NFL. We're going to hit on them right here, right now. And then we're going to wrap it up and get out of here because I got to go home and get some sleep. We got Hanging with Hennig tomorrow, 12 to 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN FM. Streaming live on YouTube and X in the Dr. Squatch virtual studio at Josh Hennig, at Josh Hennig on X. Thank you for all who watch the Football Friday show each and every week on my streaming platform. We used to do this live on the radio each week, but we don't do the live show on the radio anymore. We only do the Saturday show on the radio. Let's get to the NFL. We're going to start with a game that, frankly, and by the way, all 6 of these games, these are the 6 games I am most intrigued by on Sunday. And a couple of them you probably can guess. But this one might not be on the tip of your tongue. It might not be the game that jumps out at you the most, but it jumps out at me. And that's the Patriots versus the Falcons. Because the Falcons looked horrible last week with Kirk Cousins. And now they got Michael Penix Jr. back. And now, hey, Michael Penix Jr., welcome back. You're going against New England defense that has now allowed no more than 20 points during their 5-game winning streak. The Patriots have been smashing people. The Panthers, the Saints, the Titans, and the Browns, they just ground them into the ground. And welcome back, Michael Penix, with your garbage offensive line, your mediocre arm, your meh offensive coordinator. Good luck against the Patriots defense. This is the Falcons offense that has only scored 24 points or more in 2 games all year. And this is the team with Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London. You got all these offensive weapons, right? Drake Mooney. And you can only score 24 points or more in 2 games. And now you got to go on the road to New England in the cold. Good luck, Falcons. You're going to lose. I'm taking the Patriots to cover the 5.5. My formula has the Patriots winning 28-17. The last time I checked, that covers 5.5 points. Next game, I am very intrigued by another quarterback returning from injury. J.J. McCarthy, also going on the road to a team that is blazing hot, the Detroit Lions. Okay? The Detroit Lions are a team that they have won by more than a touchdown in all 5 of their wins this year. All 5. When they win going away almost every single time. They have dominated lesser opponents all year, has Detroit. Their 2 losses this year are the Packers and the Chiefs, and that's 2 of the top 10 defenses in the NFL this year. The Vikings right now are an average defense, and Andrew Van Ginkel, who's their best pass rusher, he is questionable to play on Sunday. So I'm not putting all my eggs in the Vikings defense is going to slow down or stop the Lions. And I think that with J.J. McCarthy coming back from injury, and he looked good at times, but he also looked like a young player to learn in the NFL. So for me, I think the Lions are going to play with their food a little bit, and then beat it to a pulp, and then run away. It's going to be like, you ever watch a cat eat? Cats are the most interesting creatures in the world, right? Because this is what a cat will do. Cat will walk up to a bowl of food. They'll look it. They'll smell it. They might, put their paw on it, move it around a little bit. I might sniff it about 5 or 6 times. And then they go to town on it. Then they annihilate it. Like they're going to, like, not have a breath before bite. Like they're just going to inhale the whole thing. That's going to be the Lions. The Lions, let the Vikings think they have a chance to be in the game. Play around with a little bit, eat a little bit. And then they're just going to just go to town on it. I got the Lions covering the 8.5-point spread. I got the Lions. My projected score is actually 30-20. I have Detroit winning the game. That was the formula spit out that I ran through. For those who are wondering, yes, I have a formula that I've been using for a very, very long time. I run a certain group of numbers through the formula. The formula spits out a final score, and that is usually a factor. Not the only factor, but definitely a strong factor. Because what I typically do, for those who don't know, is I go through the whole schedule one time. And I pick out all the games I'm interested in. Then I go back through the schedule a second time. And I look at the numbers. And I say, okay, that one makes sense. That one doesn't make sense. Then I narrow it down using the formula. After I go through the eye test, after I go through, the recap test, after I go through the, last week in the NFL kind of stuff, then I put it through the formula. Then I put it through the calculator. And I come out with the numbers. So, formula is proprietary. I'm not telling you what the formula is, though. All right. Game that probably a lot of people will be watching. Fantasy football implications. AFC playoff picture implications. Colts, Steelers. This is the number one scoring offense in the NFL is Indianapolis. And they're going to get the Pittsburgh defense that has struggled most of the year. In 4 games, the Pittsburgh Steelers have allowed 30 or more points this year. Not the Colts defense is much better. They have allowed 24 points or more in 4 games this year as well. Aaron Rodgers has the 3rd most passing touchdowns in the NFL. 16. And considering the 4 quarterbacks scored the most points in the Indy defense, here are the 4. Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Bo Nix, and Jacoby Brissett. And I know that Jacoby Brissett was with no Kenny Moore in the field for Indianapolis defense, but still, I think we all can agree that when Aaron Rodgers is on, he is as good or better than all 4 of those quarterbacks. Herbert and Matthew Stafford, among the best in the NFL. Bo Nix, he's nowhere near his prime. And Jacoby Brissett, he's a journeyman. So guess what? Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, they can score 24 in this game. But I have a lot of concern about the Steelers defense. I don't think that acquiring Kyle Duggar is going to be enough. I think that they need a lot more than that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers make one more trade before the deadline. And I'm going to go with the Colts to win this game. I got the Colts winning this game 30-24. So I got the over 50.5. I think Indianapolis and the Steelers, there's a bit of a back and forth. There's a bit of a dueling of the powers. Jonathan Taylor trying to get that LaDainian Tomlinson record if it keeps on pace for the scoring touchdowns. Daniel Jones having a good year. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, 3rd in the NFL in passing touchdowns with 16. I think this is going to be an offensive showcase. I think it'll hit the over 50.5. The next 2 games, though, I'm going under. I'm changing it up on you guys. The first couple games, I thought were a little higher scoring. Next 2, lower. Broncos, Texans, under 40.5. Now, this is one of those games where it takes conviction. This is a conviction game. This is you either believe it or you don't, right? This is, I went to church, the preacher told me to walk by faith and not by sight, and I'm walking out there on faith because the formula says this is going to be a tie game 2020. And if you go by the analytics people at Fangraphs, the odds of you having a 2020 final score in the NFL is like 1 in 20 million. So The fact that my formula spit this out. So what do I trust? Well, I trust the fact that the Texans are a team that has only hit the over in 2 out of 7 games this year. They have the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. They are allowing only 14.7 points per game against. This Texans defense is legit. It is it. It is one of the best in football. The Broncos have also only hit the total over in 3 of their 8 games this year. And 2 of those games were against top scoring offenses on the other side of the field, Dallas and Indianapolis. The Texans struggle to score. They have only scored 24 or more points in 2 games all year. CJ Stroud has arguably the worst offensive line in football. He has tons of skilled players injured all over the field. It's ridiculous. I mean, they think they're going to have Christian Kirk back this week. I don't know if that makes a difference, really. Broncos defense is really good, too. So, I think it's going to be under 40.5 just because of the fact that I think the Texans defense and the Broncos defense is going to come hunting for these quarterbacks. And these quarterbacks are going to have a long day. The next game I'm going under, I'm shocked I'm going under. Because again, I trust my research. I trust my eyes. I trust the numbers. If I'm wrong, I don't care about this one. This is the one game where if I'm wrong about it, I'm not going to jump on here and be like, I can't believe I was wrong. This is the game where I'm going to say every piece of information I grabbed led me to this result. I watched the All-22 tape on these teams. I ran the numbers through the analytics. I double-checked it with different databases. And I'm going under Chiefs Bills. Yeah. Yeah, game with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. My predicted score is 24-23, which is well under the 52.5. And here's why. The Chiefs defense in the last 3 games is only allowing 8 points a game. The Bills have won many of their games, not because of their offense, but because their defense had to come up clutch in some of these games. The defense in the last 6 games for Buffalo is allowing 17.6 points per game against. So these are 2 teams that have very good defenses that are playing at a high level right here, right now. And I think familiarity breeds contempt is the old saying, right? I think the Bills and the Chiefs, they know each other a little too well. It's almost going to be like if you ever watch like an MMA fight between 2 people who have trained together, and it's almost like they like predict each other's moves before it happens. That's what I think this is going to be. This is going to be a game where it's like Andy Reid's going to set up a formation, and Sean McDermott's like, I've seen that before. And McDermott's going to do something, and Andy Reid's going to be like, I've seen that before. Or in this case, Steve Spagnuolo is going to say to Joe Brady, I've seen that before. I think this is going to be a game where this is going to be close. It's going to be tight. Whoever's the ball last is going to win the game. And that's why my projected score, I have Kansas City winning 24-23, which is under the 52.5. One more swig of tea before we wrap this up. Yeah, that's the final game on the sheet. I have to double check. I'm tired, folks. I'm tired. It's 11 o'clock at night Eastern time. I'm tired. So please forgive me. Cardinals, Cowboys. Monday Night Football is where we're going for the final game. The Cowboys defense, and this number is insane. Like, you want to know how bad the Dallas Cowboys defense has been this year? In their last 6 games, 6, not 2, not 4, 6. In the Cowboys' last 6 games, they are allowing an average of 37.6 points per game against. That is the worst in the NFL in that stretch of 6 games. And now they're facing a Cardinals team that is expected to have Kyler Murray come back from injury. This is going to be a game where defense is optional. And it's a little surprising because Jonathan Gannon, who's the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, he is a defensive-minded coach. And he does have defensive talent on that team. He has Josh Sweat as a pass rusher. He has a guy like Max Melton as a cornerback. They have talent on that defense, but they haven't executed consistently. The Cowboys have one of the best offenses in all of college football. Dak Prescott, he's an MVP candidate for a reason. He's probably not going to win it, but he's an MVP candidate for a reason. And that's because he is orchestrating an offense at a high level. And they are pretty much full power at this point on the offensive skill positions. I have Dallas winning this game 30-28. And that gets you over the 53.5. I think Dallas barely wins this game. It's in Dallas. I understand that. But no one's afraid to go to Dallas. Dallas is not like, if you're a road team, you go to Philadelphia. You go to Kansas City. You go to Buffalo. You go to Seattle. You go to Pittsburgh. Those are the cities that you worry about. No one worries about going to Dallas. Cardinals, they're going to score points. Now, again, we don't know exactly what we're getting from Kyler Murray coming off the injury. We don't know exactly what he's going to be. You know, foot injuries, they're tricky, right? You know, there's always that lingering recovery. There's always the part where it's like you go to step on the foot. You have that maybe like that phantom pain where you think you're in pain, but it's not really pain. You know, and that's my only concern with Kyler Murray. Is Kyler Murray going to have moments in this game where he's afraid to step, to plant? If he doesn't have that, he should have a good day. Your fantasy football players, your prop bettors, he should have a good game if that's the case. I think Dallas, though, also has to win this game. The Cowboys know they have an outside chance of making the postseason. And their defense is just bad. And I think Dak has taken it on himself to say, I know they're bad. I know we got to beat them. I know we got to make this happen. So I think in Dallas's mind, they're saying, we got to go into this game and just roll up the points. We got to treat this like a Big 12 game in college football from the early 2000s. This is like Mike Leach coaching at Texas Tech. This is like when Colt McCoy was the quarterback at Texas, right? Or Vince Young was the quarterback at Texas. You know, this is back in the day when you had those quarterbacks just chucking it everywhere. Chase Daniel of Missouri, right? That's what Dallas has got to be moving forward because they're not going to win any games defensively. They just can't. They don't have the personnel. They don't have the coach. They got nothing. So give me the over 53.5 for the Cowboys and the Cardinals. And that's the Football Friday show. That's my favorite games for the weekend. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in for the Football Friday show. Remember, tomorrow, Hanging with Hennig, 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN. Streaming live on YouTube and X. Right here on stream. Like, subscribe, hit the little bell for notification alerts. Share it with your friends. Join the fun. This is not me selling a product. This is not me telling you inside information. This is us sharing our love of football. That's what we do on the Football Friday show. And with our love of sports, we do that on Hanging with Hennig. We'll talk Eagles tomorrow. We'll talk NFL tomorrow. We'll talk Sixers. We'll talk boxing tomorrow. We got a lot to get to for 3 hours tomorrow. Alex Barras will be joining me in the studio. And, of course, you, all of you watching out there, thank you for tuning in tonight. Have a great night, everybody. Be safe out there. I know Halloween is an opportunity for mischief and shenanigans, so please be safe out there. Have a good night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, 12 to 3 p.m., Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM and streaming live on YouTube and X in the Dr. Squatch Virtual Studio.